Hello there. This is going to be a short video about a short highway with a short history. In this video, I'm going to talk about the unbuilt Crosstown Expressway. So, let's get into the video. The origins of the Crosstown Expressway can be found in the early 1940s alongside the rest of Toronto's highway network. The first idea for some sort of crosstown expressway passing through the middle of the city can be found in the 1943 highway plan. Of the many so-called superhighways proposed in this plan, one looked at a highway running from what is today the interchange of the QEW, Highway 427 and the Gardiner Expressway, along Bloor Street to Yonge Street. The highway would then dive into the Rosedale Ravine before connecting to what is today the Don Valley Parkway. The highway would then continue along Gerrard Street to a connection to a highway into Scarborough. This 1943 plan, however, was never adopted though, as the city began to rapidly suburbanize after World War II, and so what was once empty land was now filling up with homes, and so this highway plan was no longer viable. It is worth noting though that this first incarnation of a crosstown expressway would likely have never gotten off the ground to begin with, since its route would have traveled through already heavily developed areas within Toronto. While this original incarnation of a crosstown expressway would be dropped, the idea of a crosstown expressway would persist and become part of the City of Toronto official plan in 1949. The idea in this case was for a highway to be built through Midtown Toronto, connecting the proposed Highway 400 to the proposed Don Valley Parkway. This highway would have started in the area of Old Weston Road and St. Clair Avenue, where it would connect with Highway 400. From there, the highway would travel west along what is today's CP Rail's Midtown corridor between Davenport Road to the north and DuPont Street to the south. The highway would have then broken off from this corridor around what is today Ramsden Park and descended into the Rosedale Ravine before connecting to the Don Valley Parkway around what is today the intersection of Rosedale Valley Road and Bayview Avenue. It was estimated this highway would cost $15 million, which is about $177 million today. By the 1950s, movement had begun on making Toronto's highway ambitions a reality. The now called East-West Expressway was to form the northern edge of a ring of highways surrounding downtown Toronto. The East-West Expressway to the north, the Gardiner Expressway to the south, the Don Valley Parkway to the east, and an extension of Highway 400 south to the Gardiner Expressway to the west. By this point, the route of the East-West Expressway was altered slightly, as now it would officially start at Bathurst Street instead of Old Weston Road. West of Bathurst Street, the highway would be part of Highway 400, which would turn south at Christie Street and run to the Gardiner Expressway. Everything east of Bathurst would remain unchanged until 1958. In 1958, changes to the alignment of the highway would be made. Firstly, the highway's interchange with the Don Valley Parkway would be moved north, with the highway now running along the Yellow Creek Ravine and connecting to the Don Valley Parkway north of Bloor Street. As well, another highway was to be constructed further north along the Don Valley Parkway that would run through the Taylor Creek Ravine to connect to the proposed Scarborough Expressway east of Warden Avenue. It is unknown if this highway would have been considered one and the same as the East-West Expressway or if it would have been given its own name. What is known though is that this highway would have been purely for connection purposes, as it would have no interchanges between the Don Valley Parkway and the Scarborough Expressway. Overall though, these two branches of the East-West Expressway were to be constituent parts of a greater set of highways that would allow for a true crosstown driving experience. The Richview Expressway as well as Highway 400 would also be part of this crosstown route. It would be possible for someone to drive from the western edge of Etobicoke to the eastern edge of Scarborough while avoiding both Highway 401 and the Gardiner Expressway. Even if the three highways are separate entities from a legal standpoint, to the layman behind the wheel it is all the same stretch of road. In 1959, Metro Toronto would release its expressway plan, and the East-West Expressway would henceforth be referred to as the Crosstown Expressway. running from Bathurst Street to the Don Valley Parkway with a branch continuing east to the Scarborough Expressway. At its west end, a connection to an extension of Highway 400, with further interchanges with the proposed Spadina Expressway and Christie-Clinton Expressway. Into the 1960s, the Crosstown Expressway plan would remain quiet, although the alignment would be altered a couple of times, specifically in regards to how it would connect to Highway 400. The first proposal was much of the same, although the branch of the highway through the Taylor Creek Ravine to the Scarborough Expressway was dropped. Another proposal looked at abandoning the Christie-Clinton Expressway in favor of rerouting Highway 400 down Keel Street and Parkside Drive to a connection to the Gardiner Expressway. This would shift the interchange between Highway 400 and the Crosstown Expressway into the area of what is today Pelham Bay, with that neighborhood being entirely wiped out by it. A final proposal was also looked at, with Highway 400 instead following what is today the GO Transit Barrie line all the way to an interchange with the Gardiner Expressway, likely around Jameson Avenue. While the interchange under this proposal would be smaller and built in what was an industrial area at the time, the area south of Dundas Street West was entirely residential, so property acquisition would have certainly been a nightmare at the time. Either way, though, all of this was for naught, as in December 1961, Metro Council rejected the Crosstown Expressway proposal. Almost immediately after this, transportation officials would begin lobbying both Metro Toronto and the City of Toronto to revive the plan. In May of 1962, then Commissioner of Toronto Public Works, Douglas Ford, no relation to Doug Ford, proposed the construction of the Crosstown Expressway as well as an extensive one-way street plan for the City of Toronto. His proposals were based on the premise that these one-way streets would be needed to absorb traffic from the Spadina Expressway and eliminate the need for extensive road widening. It would also help preserve residential amenities and encourage development. Ford also suggested that it would be a folly to terminate the Spadina Expressway at anything other than a controlled access expressway like the Crosstown. In this regard, while the City of Toronto opposed the Crosstown Expressway, there were those within who saw the need for it, if only because without the Crosstown to disperse traffic off of the Spadina Expressway, it would all end up on city streets. If the Spadina Expressway is going to be built, then the Crosstown Expressway needs to be as well. Commissioner of Metro Planning Murray Jones estimated that 40,000 vehicles would use the Crosstown Expressway daily, and Metro Traffic Director Samuel Cass would say the Crosstown Expressway would make it unnecessary for heavy traffic to use residential streets. Opposition to this project would also crop up in the general populace, as residents of the Rosedale neighborhood would oppose the highway through their neighborhood. As well, there were those even within Metro Toronto who questioned whether or not the highway was even needed at all due to its short length. In 1964, Metro Planning Commissioner Eli Comey would propose that Bay Street be extended north to meet the future Crosstown Expressway. This would be at odds with the City of Toronto, however, which had approved an apartment building development at Davenport Road and Hillsborough Avenue, directly in the path of the proposed Bay Street extension. Eli Comey would criticize the City of Toronto for this decision. Toronto Controller and future Mayor William Dennison would retort, accusing Eli Comey of trying to set Metro policy by himself, even though the Crosstown Expressway had been rejected by Metro Council. By this point, Metro planners had been ordered to cease working on the project twice, and then Mayor Chairman William R. Allen would quip, "The only way to get the Crosstown out of my mind is to leave the country." The Crosstown Expressway, however, was not dead and would appear once again in 1965. That year, the plan would appear in the Metro Planning and Transportation Department's official plan, and this time it would be approved by Metro Council. It was estimated that the Crosstown Expressway would cost $80 million to build, which is about $693 million today, with an estimated construction start date around 1995. The City of Toronto, however, still opposed the highway, and their official plan made no mention of the Crosstown Expressway. The Ontario Minister of Municipal Affairs would get directly involved in this and reject the City of Toronto's plan, instead ordering it rewritten to align with Metropolitan Toronto's plan. In a 1966 report, however, the Crosstown Expressway would come with a footnote, contemplating that its proximity to the Gardiner Expressway may make it redundant. The end of the Crosstown Expressway would come in 1971 with the cancellation of the Spadina Expressway. Since the Crosstown Expressway's primary purpose was to distribute traffic from the Spadina Expressway, planners at Metro Toronto no longer felt the Crosstown was needed. In 1973, the Crosstown Expressway would be officially dropped and removed from all future transportation plans. You could make the claim that the Crosstown Expressway could also be used as a connector between an extended Highway 400 and the Don Valley Parkway south of the 401. However, Metro Toronto didn't see it like this, and regardless if such a thought existed, then it stopped being important after the idea of extending Highway 400 was reduced from a highway to an arterial road terminating at Eglinton Avenue. The Crosstown Expressway is one of the lesser-known names in Toronto's highway expansion plans, yet it was an integral part of them. The Crosstown was a necessary linchpin in the plan that without it would cause the whole plan to unravel. Its purpose was to disperse traffic from the Spadina Expressway onto the Don Valley Parkway and the Christie Clinton Expressway, which would take drivers into the downtown core and the Gardiner Expressway. Without it, drivers on the Spadina Expressway would just be dumped onto city streets. Yet, without the Spadina Expressway, the Crosstown has no purpose. In this regard, we can't have one without the other. While the Crosstown Expressway wasn't built in its entirety, to say it wasn't built at all isn't exactly true. In fact, a very small section of it was built. That section being a random interchange along the Don Valley Parkway that connects to Bayview Avenue and Bloor Street at the top of the valley. This seemingly random interchange was built with the Don Valley Parkway in 1961 to be the connection to the Crosstown Expressway. So if you have ever driven on this road known as the Chester Hill Interchange, or have seen it and wondered what it is doing there, now you know. It is a piece of an unbuilt highway. And with that, I will end this video here. Thank you for watching this video, and if you enjoyed it and want to see more like it, please hit that subscribe button because there are more videos like it on the channel and there are more videos like it on the way. If there's anything you want to say about the Crosstown Expressway, don't be afraid to do so down in the comments section below. And with that, I'll see you in the next video.